but for right now, I'll go ahead and share that on Jacob's page. Just that way we're good to go. Okay, good, sure. So just give me one sec. Share. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with that. All right. So I got the comments up. Should be able to see that. Cool. Is there a way I can get the YouTube? All right, cool. So I got it where I got all the things that are chatted. So once again, thanks for joining. Pete from the Ray Quit Wire painting some of more Godtear stuff. And it's a really cool model. This is Rattlebones, like I was saying before, who's a shaper for Godtear. So Godtear is a game that is hex-based, and the shapers are the ones that can move the battlefield around, and you plant your banner, you get a couple extra points, and she does it by kind of hexing people, so almost kind of like a voodoo shaman. So pretty cool model. We're going to paint Rattlebones today. We'll get these Tiki followers tomorrow. Probably be about done with Rattlebones. So she's going to work all these green skins. I always do the same type of skin tones. And then I like the dark kind of muddied green on them. So just going to make that skin tone. This is kind of the same way I did for Sneaky Pete, where it's just all about this goblin kind of green. This model has a lot of... My dog's barking. Stop. This model's definitely interesting. So I gotta go, hold on, I gotta check one more thing. Okay. All right. I actually haven't seen this model on the battlefield yet, so I'm not even exactly sure how good she is. She's not on Tabletopia yet, so you can only play her in real life, and we all know how difficult that is right now. All right. All right. Then we're gonna have a lot of tans and a lot of browns. sounds and bones on this character. Has a lot of shaman wood. Alright, how are we looking? I think we got most of the green. Back of her arm. Okay. Cool. So we got her green skin mostly down. And as we kind of paint her up, and like I said, I'm kind of just going by the seat of my pants here with her, because I don't have a paint scheme really kind of going into it. I'm just got some general ideas as I kind of grab colors. I'll see what'll look good where. Okay, this has got a little water on it. Don't want too much water on your paints, because then the consistency and the color can kind of be a little jacked up. So anywhere I see this kind of antler or bone look, we'll go ahead and put this bleach bone on. What else we got? Got her weapons. Any other bone she has? It's kind of like fur almost over there. Try to paint a little closer so you guys can see it. Yeah, it's a really cool model. Like I said, I haven't played Rattlebones yet, but man, I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day, and I did like the shaman mechanics. A lot of the shaman stuff was really cool. So when I saw this model and Jacob wanted me to paint this up on the stream, I was like, this model, that's cool. There's some cool stuff I can do with this. Alright. A little hair there. There's the old Jacob. Yeah, like I said earlier, Jacob, I shared this to the Facebook page. So it's streaming from there. If that works, let me know. If not, we'll figure it out next time we run this, but I think that'll work fine. I think it shares the same on the page. But yeah, this Rattlebone's gonna be pretty sweet model when it's all said and done. Alright. Any other bones on this lovely lady? She's a handsome lady. Look at these little tusks. Alright, that's all. It's like some kind of fur. She's got the boots with the fur. When I played World of Warcraft, I played a lot of horde characters. So a lot of these goblins and orcs, I dig them a little bit more. Just because I did not like the Alliance. Alright, I think we're good there with that. Let's use this red contrast paint. I'm not sure where I want it yet, but cool contrast paint. It's the Blood Angels red, I think. And on this brown, it's going to create kind of this muddied brown, which should look pretty good on her. So let's do it on her headband here. Almost look like dried blood on a lot of her stuff here. Okay. Cool. And then we'll do it with this kind of tabard she's wearing too. Yeah, because I did this yesterday. I painted Star-Lord a little bit. I did the same thing with his jacket because it's kind of like a dirty, kind of brown, red jacket. So I think the effect will look cool on her as well. Alright. This red contrast paint actually sets in really good. If you haven't used the contrast paints before, I know people that have been kind of stopping by hear me talking about them a bunch, but they really are a good tool to use. I'm actually going to experiment with them. I'm going to try to paint some Starks for Song of Ice and Fire. I'm going to try to paint them almost exclusively with contrast paints. I'm going to see how it works, because I haven't done it yet where I just use contrast paints. So I'm kind of curious how it's going to go, because I want to see with these contrast paints, if I just use them, how is my model going to turn out? So I have heard some people say that they've used the contrast paints and that's what they used and the models look good. I haven't done that yet. I've just used them as a tool. There is no tool in this pool. Okay. Let's get that. Why is that popped up? Nice. Crinkle that for a second. All right. Let's get a little red in there. Now we'll be kind of done with that. I'm going to make these dreads kind of brown. Sorry, just trying to get a visual of what I want this to look like in my head. That's how you kind of attack a model. You just kind of start laying down colors. Okay. So Sorry, just checking a couple things. Like I said, this is the first time we've streamed this way with the Final Round Game Shop page. It's just kind of some behind the scenes stuff. So we're just testing it out a little bit. But make it work. Collaboration. Alright. The Voodoo. She's a Voodoo Ranger. She does have some metal on her, so that's kind of cool. Okay. Use this darker steel. She doesn't get the nice shiny steel. I was thinking about brass there, but I'm just like, eh. We got some. So one thing you want to think about when you're painting metals is you want to think about cool versus kind of cold. Sorry, cool versus kind of hot metals. So obviously silver is going to be a cooler metal. So you can use that to contrast like I am right now with this red. Whereas if you are painting and you have a lot of cold colors, sometimes gold or copper can be a better choice because that will it'll contrast more with those colors. It's not saying you can't do like a copper with a red, or you can't do silver with a with blue. It's just you got to realize that it's going to make your model look very kind of cold and cool looking, whereas if you have bronze and red, it's going to be kind of a warmer looking model. So just something to think about as you're doing it. All right, let's go ahead and let's get her kind of hair out of the way, which is kind of everywhere. And let me do the brown first, actually, now that I'm looking at it. As I hit my mic, I gotta be careful. I got a mic right in my face now, and sometimes you can hear it kind of there. I'll bump it. Where's my brown? There it is. So we'll use this on a lot of the fur and some of this other material. I'm not going to use it on all this stuff because we do want the browns to look different. Yes, this is a she. Rattlebones is a she. At least she looks like she has lady parts. I'm not going to examine it, Jacob, but Rattlebones looks like a she. Hey, female orcs can be angry, man. Don't mess with them. And you can kind of see the side profile. You can kind of see the face and plus the long hair. So yeah, I believe Rattlebones is a she, but like I said, sometimes it's tough to tell with orcs. Sometimes it is tough to tell. Alright. Cool. She is a cool model, though. Dig it. Can you dig it? All right. Thanks. Acrylics can be tough. Just depends on what you're using to paint, but yeah. Chris was saying that all he has is acrylics, and that can be tough when you only have that type of medium to work with. Alright, let's go ahead. Let's go down there. Yeah, I've spent, and that's one thing I will say that when people ask about painting, a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just paint myself. But something that's tough about when you paint is the initial cost, because you got to think each paint you want to use, especially if they're painting for like miniatures, a lot of the companies are charging $5 to $8 a pot, depending on what kind of paints you're getting. And that can be a lot, because I mean, I'm looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so that's probably about 20, 30, maybe 40 paints I got in front of me. And that's not even the stuff I have in my closet. So I mean, I'm not great at math, but 40 times, even if we just call it 6, that's about 200 plus bucks worth of paints. And that can be tough for people because they want to make their stuff look good, but then they're like, oh, I don't have this metal, or oh, I don't have this type of green. And that's where you get the challenge of getting into this. And a lot of times when I paint for people, that's one of the main reasons. Yeah, but you also have to remember, I've been getting these paints. I've been painting ever since I once I was in the army. I stopped painting because I wasn't into my nerd stuff as heavy. But I got out in '08 and I pretty much started again. And I think so. That would have been 2008 to now. So that's 12 years of just buying paints. So I've slowly built it up, and obviously paints go dry and you got to throw them out. But having to buy only like 2 paints a month is better than buying like everything brand new. Like this month, I would think I bought 4 different colors, and next month I might not buy any. It just depends on what happens. That's awesome. Do you print like D&D minis, Chris? That can be a little tricky to print your own minis. Use some of this Scorch Brown, or Mornfang Brown. Used to be Scorch Brown before they copyrighted all their paints. Yeah, if you hear me call paint a color and you're like, that's totally not what it's called, that's because it used to be called that. GW renamed all their paints so they could copyright them. That's why we have Black Templar Black instead of Chaos Black. Yeah, I wish I had the savviness and the space to have a 3D printer. They're really cool. One of my close buddies, Nick, has one, and he does a lot of really cool things with his. Wish I had more time and a group to play like D&D with. I'm pretty picky with my D&D group, though. I just can't play with anybody. Like I can be awesome at it and be really into it, but if I'm not with the right people, I can be really, I wouldn't say difficult, but I don't put up with crap. So if you try to tell me how to play my character because it's the optimal play and be like, well, you should put it in this skill because this will get you point blah 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 percentage more to get this, and blah blah blah, and I'm like, just let me play my character. I just want to have fun. I've never been the guy that tries to make the optimal play. I always go for one, what's cool. Oh man, she has like little baby feet. Look at how short her feet are. So if you look at her feet, they're like really stubby. She got like little babies. It's like she's got the Chinese binding going on with her feet. Sorry, I just had to say something. I just saw that and I'm like, oh, it's your little baby feet. Yeah, especially RPGs, you really got to have the right group. Hey, let me let my dog out. Go play. Hopefully she doesn't go cause problems. Mm. And I don't think. Nope. I was making sure I didn't have anybody on YouTube. I got more people on the stream for Facebook. Because I am, and this is what Jacob and I were working on. We're trying to stream simultaneously on his Facebook page and then also the Rage Quit Wire YouTube channel. Because that way we don't have to sit here and be like, hey, send me the file. I know I need to upload it there. And so, something we're going to work on. But really awesome doing cross content for Jacob and his store. Because I know he has a lot of people that will come to his shop, but they don't paint. So it's good to get something like this on his page where people can see it and maybe get some ideas of how to paint their stuff. Okay. All right. The crazy thing is, I think we really just have some brown on her shoulder pad over here, which I'm going to get with this darker brown. And then I think I have her black kind of dreads and hair, and then I think this model's already ready for the wash. It's crazy. All right, this is going to take a little bit of positioning here because we're trying to paint underneath her this metal. Trying to just paint dark brown underneath it. Once again, just small touches. Okay. All right, let's paint these black dreads, and then I think we're ready for a wash. All right, so one of my favorite washes, definitely the contrast Black Templar paint. Almost as so, just kind of reminds me of one of these rock bands I used to listen to when they were kind of big, was Shadows Fall. And they actually had a lead singer that had dreads like this that went down to like past his butt. This kind of reminds me of that. The contrast paints dry pretty quickly. Like if you want to time it, you're going to start to notice that as I'm painting this, they're actually going to start drying, so you can't quite, it dries quick enough where you can't manipulate the paint for too long. And if you go back over it with the contrast paint after it's dried, it's going to be darker, and especially with this black, you're going to lose a lot of your detail going back over it. So you really kind of just want to give it a good once over and then just kind of move on. Sorry you guys can't see this back end, but there's a couple tight spots I'm getting there. Yeah, like you can already see the top part of this is already kind of starting to dry. So it's not like a wash where it's going to take you a minute. Sorry, I'm just getting this back side that you guys can't see. Plus, when you have these thinner parts, you really got to be careful not to bleed it all over the place. Probably don't need to paint this, but to me it would just look weird. I'm painting the backside of her front hair right now, just because it's going to show up a little bit. Sorry, might be a little bit out of stream there. Okay. The front we're going to have to control a little bit better. Okay. Not bad. I'll show you guys that it's gonna, I think the model's gonna be pretty slick once we get this black on there. It's just, it looks like it's framing the model pretty good. Which I'm sure when they designed the model, that's kind of what they were like thinking of. Been watching a lot of Community lately. So I got a couple of the Community like songs from season 1 stuck in my head. I'm not gonna sing them because we're kind of sharing this also with Jacob's stream. But there's some funny songs on the Community. And they all involve Pierce. Look at the bones. Yeah, Rattlebones is really cool. But you can see why Jacob didn't think that she was a female, because Rattlebones doesn't really sound feminine. Like, you don't go, hey dog, I'm gonna go talk to this girl. Yeah, what's her name? Rattlebones. Oh man, that's super pretty. Is that French? A French name? Alright, almost got that. And this is where with the contrast, you really got to kind of manage it well, because it's really easy to kind of slip up here and then put it somewhere where you don't want it to, because like I said, it's thinner, kind of like a wash, so it can be a little hard to manage and control sometimes. Okay. All right. Yeah, and I'll show you this backside because Chris was asking this in the stream. So if you look at the backside, this hair on the back is, for the black hair, is almost dried. Like I can see a little bit where it's still drying in that part and some down the side, which actually got to touch up that braid. But if you look at the rest of it, it's pretty dry. If you look at the front, it's drying. It's still drying in the cracks, but it's getting there. And you see the red contrast paint turned out pretty well too. Yeah, so that's what I tell people. The contrast paints, it feels like you're cheating when you paint with them. Like this, and it really, it took me a minute to kind of feel okay about it because I was like, man, this is like a cool effect, but I kind of feel like I'm really not working for it, you know? But then I got over it because if it saves you time and it gets models on the table, that's all that's important. Okay. Cool. Now we're ready for the wash. Yeah, so we got a couple. I'll point out the contrast paints before I put the wash on. That way you can see, because the contrast paints, I'm not going to try to really, thanks Chris, appreciate it. The contrast paints, I'm not going to touch that much. I might highlight them once the washes are dried. But if we go through what contrast paints we have on her, we have the bandana, which is also the tabard, right? So that's what we see with the red contrast paint. We have the black hair, obviously, we just did. We have the snake bite leather tans. That's all contrast paint. So the wash is going to go mainly on her skin, the bone, and then these brown boots and the metal. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to do a brown wash. Yeah, and that's, I tell you, if you just get a lot of these paints, if you just got like one or two colors and of each that you wanted to paint, so red, get 2 paints, colored red. You could almost do now where you just get like 1 red contrast, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 brown, and you can just paint with these contrasts. You don't need any other colors. Obviously, the more you throw onto it, the better it's going to look. And we're putting a brown wash even on her skin, because that's really going to pull out a lot of the details, and it's going to make her skin pop a little bit more when we put that black wash on it. Because I remember when washes came out and how big a deal they were. When people found these washes, they were like, man, tell you what, if you haven't started painting with these washes, you really need to up your game. Because when these washes dry, once again, it just ups your game. Just makes you look like you're a better painter than you are. Like I said, before we put these paints on her, like this and the contrast paint, it's kind of like, this model doesn't look that good. And then as you kind of continue on, it's like, okay, this is starting to look better. Okay. I'm kind of leaning on the table, it's creaking a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And this is actually a really good example also for her. of a model that you could put a ton more work and detail into. But the model's cool enough that just with what you're doing with these colors, the model's gonna look cool. So don't overwork models when you're painting. You need some brown. All right. Need some green in there. Spot of green on her thigh there. All right, we'll get a good look at her in a second. All right, so here she is so far. This is just with the brown wash and the contrast paints so far. Like I said, turned out pretty good. I'm probably going to put a brown wash on these coins up here just to make them, because I like to think about the character and be like, okay, if they were going to have these things, what would it actually look like? And to me, an orc like this isn't going to have nice shiny armor, right? Not going to have nice shiny objects. One, because I don't think an orc likes shiny things that are like that. I think orcs are more about the utility and, I don't know, more important things. Alright, so we're going to let her dry a little bit, and then we're going to come back and put a black wash on her. So I'm actually going to put her off the table and underneath this by the fan. And then we're going to pull out some of the stuff. So I think with when we started doing the news stream, we didn't get to see his flag. So this is his banner. So it's just it's pretty big for humans. So this almost would have been some kind of champion, not a follower. So that's the banner. Then has these totems that are really cool. They're all like these tiki totems. So we're going to make them different. They're all going to be unique. I don't know how I'm going to paint them yet, but I'm going to start with some bone. So everywhere I see bone, I'm going to paint first. So let's slide these out. Bring this screaming skull back out. Oh, crap. That's why you always shut your paints. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely like a champion skull. So if you're unfamiliar with Godtear, the champions are fighting for the gods. Basically go through these cycles, and the cycle that basically where the gods die and their essence spreads over the world. Well, these champions are basically fighting for these new essences so they can become the next gods. That's what Godtear. So just a really fun game where you have these really beefed out characters who are fighting for all this power. It's got a very Highlander feel to it, right? I think earlier Chad was asking what kind of brushes I use. So I do not use fancy brushes. So a lot of people will swear by a certain brand. I do not. What I actually do is I go to Hobby Lobby. I go to Joanne Fabrics, any kind of hobby store. And I just straight up, okay, here's a 10-pack of brushes for $15, whatever. And I do that because I paint a lot, and I beat the heck out of my brushes. So if I bought high-end brushes, I would spend a ton of money on that. So instead, I just do cheap brushes. They don't last as long because obviously you pay what you get for. You get what you pay for. Like I said, I paint a lot, so I feel like if I spent the money on a lot of good brushes, that it just would be a waste of money. What's up? When I'm done. Why? I don't know. It's 4:30, so maybe 5. Yeah. So, uh, there are people that are kind of snobby about brushes, and like I said, these I do notice a difference. Like I do have a Games Workshop brush over here. I haven't cracked open yet because I'm been beating up this brush. But when this one's kind of done, I'll definitely use the GW one. Uh, but I understand because they are not durable, especially when you start using them for lots and lots of things like dry brushing and highlighting and all sorts of stuff. You can paint your models, that's fine. I don't know if you got a lot of room over there. All right. And once I get done with this color, we'll check on Rattlebones, see how she's doing. Alright, I think I'm okay with that for now. Could do more, but that's fine. Got a good base of color down there. Alright, who else has some? Sorry. You're this kind of weird. God, these tikis are so weird. Let's say, what'd you need out of mine? What do you need? Do you want your green? Because I think your green's over there. Or do you want a brighter green? You can use it if you want. Alright, I guess that's the only part I'm going to do bone on him. Like these hex totems are some of the more complex followers I've seen so far. A lot of little detail on them. Okay. It's weird little models. Hmm. A lot of little detail with these. I'm really kind of, and the reason why I wasn't talking there for quite a bit, I was just thinking about what kind of detail I'm going to do as far as what colors with these. That's kind of what I do is I go through the models like this. I just kind of evaluate them and say, okay, got a lot of things that look kind of like this could be green, or this might be natural, this might be man-made. That's why I always like to start like I'm doing right now with a color where I'm like, I know I want this to look like this. It's like these arms, I was like, I know I want those to look like bone. And as I kind of go through the model, I'm evaluating what else. This is so gnarly. I'm gonna have to look. I don't know who did the sculpts for these, who rendered them, but man, they got some unique things going on here. And Rattlebones should be good for our black wash once I get this one set up. I think Rattlebones is kind of one of those models that is just going to be annoying to play against. I think Rattlebones has an ability that you roll, and on a 1 or a 2, Rattlebones gets like to put, I think it's either a hex or it's either a blight or a boon on her or an opponent, depending on what she rolls. If you roll a blank, these guys get to put an effect on themselves. So, pretty interesting. This almost looks like that weird walker thing. What is it called? The Dark Crystal. They have these like tall, long-legged animals that they kind of ride on. This is kind of like the hex version of that, right? Okay. I think we're set there. Okay. Alright, so we got these totems kind of stirred up. We'll see what Rattlebones is kind of looking like. Alright, looks like we're pretty good. Yeah, I think we're ready for that black wash. Okay. Alright, let's start PL. Yeah, so this brown into the black wash on this skin tone for orcs and goblins is one of my favorite skin tones for fantasy models. This creates a really unique orc and goblin kind of mix to it. Another party view. Okay, we'll get these boots. Those little baby feet. Looks like she's definitely a cool model. Cool model, gonna frustrate your opponents. I'm all on board. Love playing stuff where people play against it and they're just like, what? I don't even know how to deal with that. Alright, I think we got what we need. Alright, get the back side of that, and I think we're good with the black wash. Okay. Alright. Read the bones. Welcome to the boneyard. Alright, so Rattlebones. Not looking too bad. We got the black wash kind of setting in. Looks really good. And honestly, by the time this wash dries, I don't know if there's a ton of highlighting we're going to have to do to this. Because that's already kind of where I really like a lot of this stuff. I think I'm going to put a black wash on this metal real quick, actually, now that I look at it. This black wash on that metal is just going to pull out some of these dings that are right there. Get some of that. Okay. Yeah, like that. Yeah. So she looks really good. I'm happy with the way she is turning out. Like I said, we can do some highlights after this, and I might do some on the boots. But generally speaking, she's looking really good. I don't know that I'll change that much with her, actually, now that I'm... Like, obviously, I'm going to have to... I'll just paint the base black, because that's what I've been doing for Jacob's models, is just keeping the base clean and black. But man, she is turning out good. Like a lot. Had to get new water, huh? So, you want to know what? We got some time. What is it? We got about... I'm going to paint for about 10 more minutes. So, let's see if we can get that. Put that back over here by the fan. We'll see if we can get her to dry in about 4 minutes, and then we'll see what we can do. I'm going to go with some of this darker green for some of this voodoo stuff. So some of this cloth that some of these tikis have on them. Because I'm thinking maybe this darker green and then either a red on top of it just to complement it. will look kind of cool when it's all said and done. Because she has some green on her, obviously, and she also carries red throughout. So I think the red's what we're going to use to kind of tie these models together. Okay. Get the front, y'all. Okay. Tikis are definitely going to take more time to paint than she did, which is fine. What are we doing? Okay, one more minute and we'll see what she's looking like. Okay, for now. Let's kind of see where she is. Alright, so not bad. We can move forward with some of the paint. That way we can get her mostly done. So we're going to go back to this bone color. Just getting hard edges with this. Kind of giving it back to that kind of bone look. Okay, it is a little watery, so we're going to kind of dry it a little bit. Some people like blending their colors together, so they like that kind of more water kind of texture as they're kind of highlighting, but I like it where I can control it. You can kind of get more depth with the bone that way. You just watching, bud? Ooh, it looks slimy. So if you're going for a slimy look, you have achieved it. Okay. Carmen, leave it. All right, think we got all that. Okay. Okay, we got that. Let's build up the red back up. Because we did, well, let's do the skin first. Set these high points up. We're just hitting these highlights up real quick. Alright, I think we got the green skin. Let's do this red, and then I think red, brown, and we're kind of done with her. Could highlight that bleach bone up to more of a white, but I actually like kind of keeping it muddier, the darker looking, kind of gross looking. Okay, let's get this red. I'm doing this because I do want more, I want a hard highlight on this. Just because add a little more depth to it. The contrast paints do a good job, but I feel like they're not, they're going to give you the basic kind of highlights with whatever formula they kind of use, but it's not as bright sometimes as you want it. Sometimes it comes off as just flat too. So we're going to build this up a little bit more with an orange. You guys can't see this part, but sorry, just there's not a good way for me to kind of get back there and still see what I'm doing. Okay, let's get the orange out. Notice I'm not cleaning off the brush for this, just because it's gonna go from orange is definitely a color where it doesn't hold well on its own a lot of times, so it's gonna mix with this red in certain parts. And so almost really just going to look like brighter red, which I mean is what orange is. But like right there, you really don't see that this is an orange highlight. It just looks like a really bright red one. Cool. Then we just need to highlight the brown boots. Oh yeah. I wouldn't want to stand next to that guy. Get an infection from all that spewage.
Looks cool, right?
Yeah, how'd you get that shiny effect? Just a bunch of paint?
Yeah.
Looks good. So you want to ask something? What? Show who? I don't know why you're so shy now, just because there's a camera on. So this is kind of the basing that Ty was working on. And so it's kind of like a slime base for these aliens for Zombicide Invader. It's really kind of gnarly looking. That's how you get diseases, by stepping in things like that and getting an infection. Alright. Just highlight that. I like this poor orc's baby feet. Alright. And that's where we're going to leave it. Cool. So she is pretty much done. I'm going to paint her base black, and then she's how she's going to be. And like I said, we can pull more detail out. I just want to do a quick, I mean, we've been painting her for a little over an hour. And from start to finish, she's pretty much done. And you can see a lot of the cool stuff we did on her. And once again, that's what I'm saying. It's just an hour, literally taking probably about 20 minutes maybe to put that, because the base actually probably takes me more time to paint than the actual model, because I have to let the base, put a black on there, let it dry, which that paint takes longer, because it's this, kind of like what Chris was talking about earlier, this acrylic paint. So I use that for basing, and if you look, she's got a big base. It's going to take about 2 or 3 layers to do, but I'll definitely post pictures of it once she's done, because she is definitely cool looking. She does have eyes. Let's paint her eyes. We'll paint them yellow. Make her official. Why is my phone going off? Alright. So, like I said, she's done. We're gonna call her good. Paint her eyes yellow, just kind of a basic. You can see it if you really want to look at it, but she is good to go.
Does this still look good? I put like a little white on there to like bring out a shine, but it doesn't.
I think it makes it look like there's stuff in the slime, which is kind of a cool thing to think about. So it looks cool. All right, so we're going to leave it there. Make sure that guys like, subscribe to the Rage Quit Wire channel on Facebook, YouTube. If you like sporting different nerd contents, you can definitely support us on Patreon. And yeah, any little bit helps. We're putting out more content. The podcast always puts stuff out. We're putting a lot more videos out. I'm doing one of these a day for Jacob at the Fun Around Game Shop. So you can find it on his page. And then tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to do these guys. So we'll I'm going to mull it over and try to think about how I'm going to paint them, but it should be pretty interesting because there's a lot of character. I'd argue that there's more detail on these models than there is on her. A lot of her detail are kind of the same, whereas these have like a mask, cloth, bones, wood, just kind of really gnarly looking models. But we're going to finish. I'll show you the finished product with her tomorrow with her black base, because that black base will kind of be like the chef's kiss, make it look real good. And then we'll work on these guys tomorrow, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll put the black base on them. So we should be done with this champion tomorrow. But with that being said, make sure that you guys take it easy. Have yourselves a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.